Okay, so this was a campaign that ran for a couple of weeks and it generated just over $1,000 in profit during that time. I want to use this campaign just to show you how to optimize and how to look at your reporting and make the right decisions based off the data you see there. So what we'd do, if this was your campaign and you just set this up and you just started it and traffic was starting to come in, you'd want to generate a report fairly early on by simply clicking on the campaign, clicking on report and heading straight over to the variables section. So within the variables section you've got content ID, which is the actual creative itself. So I'm going to click that first. Okay, so on the left you'll see the creative IDs. Now for this particular campaign I've got a lot here. This is because it ran for 2 weeks, so I was constantly adding in new creatives just to keep the performance strong and see if I could beat the control, you know, the original creative that did so well, which was this one here, to see if I could beat that. Now you're going to start a campaign, you're going to have 4 or 5 creatives at maximum. So let's just discount this section for the moment and look at these top ones here. You can see that one's really had the lion's share of the traffic, and you'll see this often when you start a campaign, that one will really fly. Now hopefully it will fly, you'll get a ton of visits and you'll get a ton of conversions. If it doesn't and you're just getting tons and tons of visits but the conversion rate's low, you've only really got 2 options. You can either pause that particular creative, or if it is converting but you're getting a negative ROI, so let's say let's look at this one here. This one had 303 visits. Let's say it had like one conversion and it was, you know, it was less than break even. We could break that particular widget out into its own campaign and bid less if it was getting the most traffic. Okay, because the way Revcontent's algorithm works is it's all to do with click-through rate. So if you're getting something that's got a real high click-through rate, then you're going to be paying less for that. Okay, so somebody who wants to compete with that particular creative would have to come up with a far better creative that attracts more clicks, or they would have to bid more than you. Okay, now sometimes it's worth, as you can see with this one, this particular creative sticks out to me because it's had 5 conversions but it's only had 264 visits. So it's not really got traction within Revcontent's algorithm. But you could break that particular creative out into a new campaign and see if you could improve upon the creative to get more traction, to get more click-through rates. Another option is obviously just bidding higher on this particular one, which can open up new widgets. But I would really focus your efforts on improving that click-through rate by improving the creative itself, rather than just simply bidding more. So yeah, when you start, you're going to start with 4 or 5 creatives, and you want to be pausing down the creative that's got the lowest amount of visits and the lowest amount of conversions, obviously, and because these will steal traffic from your top performers. Like I said in an earlier video on content ad, you just need to break out those winners, and you just need to create 4 new variations of that winner. So 4 headline variations with the same image, and 4 creative variations with the original headline. So slight tweaks on both, and you would find that you would just continually keep increasing in that profit margin. Don't worry too much about making edits to your lander. The strongest things, the most important things, is the offer itself. So if you're promoting, let's say this particular campaign was a lottery offer, you might find that there's a lottery offer with a different affiliate network, such as ClickBank, for instance. So the best test to run normally is when you set up your campaign. When you go to the offer, you can run a few offers. We can add a few here and save that. So it's definitely worth spending some time initially just to see if there are any other offers which you could test out at the same time. All we would need to do then is just click on the offer section and create an offer report, and you would see, just like you do here, your offers and their performance. So you'd be pausing down the very worst performing offers, but you might be thinking, well, when would I know that? The thing is, with statistics, you've got to give things enough time before you decide that it's definitely a loser or definitely a winner. And unfortunately, it's budget which dictates how long you can leave that running for. If you left everything to run to statistical significance, you could spend an absolute fortune. You could waste a lot of money. So I tend to leave things, if it's an offer, I'll spend 3 times the payout. So if the payout's $50 of the offer, I'll spend $150 testing it before I make a decision. Now, I'm not saying that that's the best way of doing it, because ideally you'd want to leave it longer than that. But in a real world, it's just not possible. You will just, unless you've got so much budget, it's not always possible to leave things to run till statistical significance. And so many factors come into play when you're running advertising. You could start a campaign on a Monday, which would perform completely different to a campaign running on a Friday. Or you could start a campaign at the start of the month, which would run different to a campaign at the end of the month. These are things that you need to bear in mind when you run advertising. A little bit of intuition goes a long way. Obviously, once you get the experience, you'll know more when to pause down an offer or pause down a landing page. So I'll probably do a more in-depth post on this on Elite Promoter, or a video on this, which explains a little bit more about statistical significance. And there are a few calculators which can predict, or try to predict early on, how something is going to perform on an A/B split test. Let's move on to targeting here. So within the targeting section, you can see that Revcontent have packaged up their domains into certain niches which you can buy ads for. So health and fitness, you can see here, is performing really strong, and that's no surprise to me. Health and fitness is normally a good niche to advertise to. Editorial news, not doing so strong there. But what you can do is, if you head over to Revcontent, you can individually set your bid on these particular niches. Now, what I would do to start off with is, when you first run a campaign, initially within the first few hours or day or so, you're going to see that some of these particular topics aren't going to be working for you. Now, rather than try and blacklist each individual widget, sometimes it's just far easier to turn these entire topics off, because you will blacklist a bunch of widgets all at once. Once you've optimized your campaign, you could open up some of these up again. If you've got a new landing page or a new offer, you could open up again and give them another test. But initially, if it looks bad, just pause it down. Just give it enough spend. Like this one here, we can see we spent $114. No conversions. I mean, I know from experience, and this is linking back to what I spoke about a minute ago, that this is not a particularly strong topic, regardless of what offer you're running. So a bit of experience goes a long way, and we'd just pause that down. So we're going to move on to the widget ID. So on the left hand side, here's all the widget IDs of domains that you've received traffic from. Revcontent doesn't pass back the name of the domain, but with Volume you can check that information just by clicking refer a domain in this tab up here, and that will show you what each of these domains are actually called. This is useful if you want to spy on those particular domains, on performing placements, to see what other people are running there. So if we want to blacklist any of these, we just simply export a CSV file, and we could open it up in Excel and sort the report by the worst domains. Now, some of these haven't really had enough data yet, so it might be a little bit too early to blacklist some of these ones here. But at the top, we can see this one here has had 475 visits and it's only had 1 conversion. So this would be a candidate for blacklisting. So we'd copy that, and all we need to do with our CSV file or individual domains here is head over to Revcontent, and within the targeting section of your campaign, you click on the widget optimization tab. Here you can just paste straight in your CSV file or individual widgets, and then you just simply select the blacklist option, and you could add these widgets you can add these widgets in from there. And at the bottom we'll show you your widget ID list with all the widgets that you've applied to this campaign so far, either as a blacklist or a whitelist. So other data which could be useful to us can be found in the day parting section, where we've got hour of the day and days of the week where our campaign performed the strongest. So if we click on one of those now, we can see, for instance, Thursday and Friday worked really well for this particular campaign, while Monday and Tuesday had the worst results. If we look at the hour of day, you can sort this data by order, and we can see that in the evening times this particular offer performed the strongest. So this data could provide insights on when you should be running your campaign and when you should be pausing it. Now, when you've got quite a few campaigns running, managing what times things run and what times they stop can be a bit of a headache. I've developed a tool called Natcon which fully automates this process, and I'll provide a link here so that you can check that out for yourself. So the only other data which could be of use to us is if this was a mobile campaign, we could head over to the operating system section and see if there's a particular operating system that's outperforming another. So iOS could perform better than Android, for instance. And with this data we could edit our Revcontent campaign, and you will find in the device targeting section of the campaign setup you can just target Android, iOS, Windows, or combinations of all three. So that pretty much wraps up this particular video. Hope you've got some value from all this, and I hope it helps you set up your own campaigns and optimize them in the early stages.